My name is Hung, and this is my video out. I identify as a Gaysian, and that just stands for a gay Asian. My family's from Vietnam. My dad fought in the Vietnam War, and after we lost the war, he was put in a re-education camp, and he was there for about 8 years. And after the 8 years, there was this policy that was made that allowed the Southern Vietnamese folks who helped fought in the Vietnam War with the U.S. side to bring their families over. And my family had a decision to choose either between California or Boston. And I just found out that now, and I was like, I wish they picked California because I can't stand the cold. But he picked Boston because it's known for its school and stuff like that. So they came to Boston in '92, and I was born in '93, and I'm the first and only one of us to be born in the United States. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, and then it's my mom and dad. And so I would say like growing up as a young Asian wasn't easy, and that's because my parents got divorced when I was really young. And throughout the years, my brother, who is Mormon, had me baptized into the church. And then I have another brother who used to beat me up for being gay, and he would find like pink notebooks, and like he'll just go through them, and then he'll see the boys that I liked, and he confronted me one day about it, and this is when I'm like 7, 8, like really young. And in Asian cultures we have altars, so regardless of like religion, we have usually altars of our grandparents, and those are just like for prayers and just something to keep close. So one day he had me stripped out of my clothes, and he had me kneel in front of my grandparents' altar, just kind of like asking for forgiveness and trying to pray it away. Like I think that's something that's common regardless of what background you come from. I think that's something we always hear. And I don't know, it felt weird asking. Also, like, because I was born in Vietnam, I didn't know any of my grandparents. So the ones that passed away, they grew up with, like my brothers and my sister, they grew up with, so they know, they have that relationship with them. So I'm literally just praying to someone I don't know, and I'm asking for forgiveness from people I don't really know much of. And while all that was happening at home, I was being bullied in school. And I used to be like, I feel like I'm a little taller now, but I used to be like 4'10", really short and really scrawny. So I was getting pushed against the lockers, and paper balls were thrown at me on the bus. So by the age of like 11, I had to find my own money just to take the train. And luckily Boston has, it's not the best train system, but it's simple. It's you either go one direction or the other direction. So it's easy to get to school, but just like being such a young age, like obviously not working, but just finding like coins around the house just to go to school. And at that point, like from 11 to 15, right up until high school, right before I started high school, I didn't realize I was angry at the time, but definitely was angry. I wanted to rebel, and well, I was rebelling against in school, and there was just like I was rebelling, but then I just didn't have a reason why. But then it was just like I was just angry at my family. I was angry in school. I was mostly hurt because school and home were the places I spent my most time at, and it just didn't feel safe at either. So I just kind of closed myself from the world, and then just like endured the pain. Luckily, the bullying wasn't like a daily thing. It was once in a while, comments are made, the pushing are made, or when I'm alone in the bathroom, that's always uncomfortable. But there was positive sides. So like I had friends. I had a few friends who would either take the train with me or walk with me to school. And I haven't. I have a problem. I have a problem now too. Like confronting feelings and issues. And although I went through counseling, sometimes I just like either put up with it or just let it go. And so by that age, just getting the money, I was like, oh, this was the solution to my problem. Like, this is what I have to do. So then it just became a habit where I wasn't even thinking of why I'm taking the train and not just the bus. Oftentimes I would use humor and be funny or be like the really obnoxious like diva type, just kind of like protecting myself, and then that kind of just like hides away all the sadness that I was dealing with. By 16 in high school, I started counseling, and it wasn't even like I need help, I wanted counseling. I saw my best friend get counseling, and I was like, oh, she gets to skip the period to talk to someone for an hour, and I was like, oh, I want to do that, so let me just skip this period and then just talk to someone about my life. But like looking back on it, it's just definitely very impactful. My counselor helped me find like different programs in Boston and different after school programs where I was able to find other queer Asian folks, and they definitely like reminded me, or they helped me learn that we are not all alone, and we're just like dispersed in little areas and different cities. And they reminded me that I'm loved regardless of what who I am, who I love, and stuff like that. But the turning point for counseling that really helped me was that there was one time I was going home after I was in this this theater troupe for like LGBTQ youth, and I was going home after like our first show, and I was gay bashed, or I was jumped, and then I guess the gay bashing came from the terms they use, like faggot and a queen and stuff like that. So I told my counselor the next day, and she, in a way, she was like, I know this is hard, and trust me when I say like, I know how hard this is. And then I was like, oh, maybe she's just like, she's just telling me because she's a counselor and she's heard all these stories or she's been through it. And so in a way, she came out to me without directly saying like, I'm queer. And so then that kind of just changed how I was viewing counseling. I was like, oh wow, like this person really understands me. And although she is a white woman, I was like, how can she tell me about being queer and Asian? But she definitely helps me out a lot. Now that like my sexuality is out the way and I've worked on it for 10 years and built a relationship with family members for 10 years, I've been exploring with drag and performing and stuff like that, and now I'm kind of like struggling with gender. And there's this cover that Glee did about the song of the song "If I Were a Boy," and the rendition of the character Unique, who performed the song, who in the show she is trans, and the scene is that she was getting bullied in the bathrooms, and then she sings the song, and we know the Beyonce version that's like poppy beats. This one was more stripped down, and the lines that the character Unique was singing, that you don't understand how to love a girl, and you don't understand how to be a better man. And that definitely hits home for me, just because I think being gay and Asian, that your family goes through this process of dealing with their internalized homophobia, and there's no positive words in Vietnamese that talks about queerness. I think recently I just found out that there's this word called Nguyen, which means like same loving. And before growing up, I always heard Bede, which is I've heard it's derived from pedophile or pedophilia, and there's other words that just means like flamboyant. So there's just no positive words, especially hearing that. There's actually no word for straight people either. It's just normal. So I think when I listen to that song, I think about the gender roles I have to deal with at home. There's also this unspoken debt that we owe to our families because they sacrificed their life in Vietnam just to bring us over here to give us a better life. And when I listen to that song, sometimes I get sad because I'm like, oh, I couldn't live up to my mom's expectations. Like, I'm obviously not gonna marry a woman, and therefore I may or may not carry on my family name. My brother, who is Mormon, he got married in 2011, so that was still early on in my coming out, and he went to Utah. I mean, that's where all the Mormons were. So he came back every vacation or like every summer, and each time he would leave, we would just have this conversation, and it was just because my dad wasn't in the picture for a very long time, and he was the oldest brother who was our oldest sibling that was around. He had to take on a lot of the roles that my dad would have done. So my other brother didn't do well in school, so school wasn't something he helped me on. But this brother, he really wanted to make sure I was doing well in school, and so he was very protective. And so all these conversations that we had was just like, what do you believe in? Like, but then I think because of counseling, because of finding friends who were similar to me, one day I just told him like I'm leaving the church and I'm gay. Like I came out and I was just like I'm leaving the church mostly because. So I know the Mormon church has their reputation of being very anti-queer, which is true. But the church I went to, or the ward I went to, was pretty liberal. So they said that you can be gay, however you can't act on homosexual acts, which was like, okay. Especially, you don't tell me that, especially I'm trying to figure out and explore, and it's like, wait, what does that mean? So I told him, I was like, I want to leave just because I'm going against what I'm being taught. So he didn't take it that well. But when he did get married to someone who is very liberal, she is also Mormon, but they're very, she helped him open up a little bit more. And we don't really we haven't really sat down and addressed the issue, but he's come to see the videos I created, and he's apologized, and oftentimes I do think about my brother's feelings before mine, just because like, oh, maybe this is just too queer for them or too gay for them, and I don't want them to feel uncomfortable either, you know. I think they do they try their hardest to support as much as they can because they don't understand. So they try, and I'll take it, I guess. But my brother, who is married, he has 2 kids, and when I was exploring drag, I would do my makeup at their house, and my niece and my nephew have been exposed to me getting ready, and I guess because they're still young, they're only 2 and 4, they don't question like, oh, why is Ju Hung dressing up as a girl? And I'm kind of glad that my brother wasn't like freaking out that I was getting ready at his house, and that he didn't mind his kids being around. Because I don't know, I really love my nephew and niece, and so was grateful, I guess, that he was so supportive, and he would teach them how to love better, regardless of the church they were going to. And yeah, sometimes they can't recognize me in drag, but no, the relationship has definitely grown with that brother. The other brother, after I've come out to other people, I guess, you know, family talk. So they told him, and he was sad, but he was pretty much like, he was always around, so he was like, I mean, I kind of knew, and I just didn't want to admit it. And I wouldn't say he's like the best ally. Like, I wouldn't say like, oh, go to this rally, but he definitely is a good ally to me. He's very supportive now. He's also dating someone who's more liberal, so I think you know, women, they definitely save the day. So they help them out a lot with their internalized homophobia and stuff like that. And you know, as someone who is a person of color, you know, I deal with Asian homophobia and gay racism, and I think for my brothers to be at a place where they are now, I mean, I'll take it. Like, I don't need to ask for more, because I guess now I'm more comfortable, like, and they understand a little bit better. My favorite part is actually, I've never asked, I got asked that question before. Throughout all that I've been through in life, I think I've gone to be a really strong person, and people would say I'm pretty resilient. So I think I like that about myself. I think that, like, because I've been through so much, that it has to take a lot to like really nudge or like bother me or like poke at my buttons, because I'm able to like I've been through enough, or I've been through the worst, that like I'm able to take like the criticism, I'm able to take people like saying like ignorant things, and I've come a long way to like really feel that way. So yeah, I think I like that. I like that I'm resilient. There are other queer people in Boston. However, we don't have like an Asian night, or we don't have a specific place that we all hang out. So hopefully, working with people to create that space. And it's hard because like everyone's always so busy, and we always have like all these great ideas, but they always fall through. So I think I really want to push on creating more healing circles and more places where people can be ourselves. There's not many drop-ins anymore for queer Asian people. There's just not really much resources, so I want to work on that. Sometimes I do wish I could just come out as either like non-binary, and then maybe explore what like transness could mean. But because I think sometimes I worked so long to get my family to a medium, that it's just easier and safer to just be the way that I am. However, that's something I want to do for myself, to just explore what that could mean for me. For all those who are searching the courage, or just searching to open that first door, regardless for yourself or for someone who dare not to love you, know that it's up to you on how and when you want to do it, and know that you're simply mighty for just being yourself. That's it. I always say that like coming out, it's a series of doors you never stop opening. You constantly open these doors, and you constantly always have to tell people you're either gay or not. And it's not just like a brave act. It's like because it's a continuum, it's like a brave life.